The champagne flute shattered against my hospital room wall with the kind of satisfying crash that makes you wonder why you don't throw expensive things more often. Vanessa didn't even flinch. She just stood there in her designer dress, checking her manicure like she'd come to discuss the weather instead of divorce papers. Really, Ethan, throwing things now? She smoothed her blonde hair with practiced indifference. How very pedestrian of you. I shifted in the hospital bed, my ribs screaming from the car accident that had landed me here 3 days ago. 3 days of waiting for my loving wife to visit. 3 days of calling her phone and getting voicemail. 3 days of wondering if maybe, just maybe, she was worried sick about me. Turns out she was just sick of me. Let me get this straight, I said, my voice hoarse from the breathing tube they'd removed yesterday. While I was unconscious, possibly dying, you filed for divorce and cleaned out our accounts? Our accounts? Vanessa laughed, a sound like ice cubes clinking in an empty glass. Honey, you haven't contributed anything meaningful to those accounts in years. Your little insurance investigator's salary barely covers the gardener. The irony was so thick you could cut it with a scalpel. If only she knew about Uncle Harold's inheritance. $329 million sitting in a trust account, waiting for me to claim it. The lawyer had called yesterday with the news. Apparently, dear old Uncle Harold, a man I'd met exactly twice, had left his entire fortune to the only family member who never asked me for money. Besides, Vanessa continued, examining her reflection in her phone screen, I'm getting married tomorrow to someone who actually matters in this city. Tomorrow? I sat up straighter, ignoring the pain. Jesus, Vanessa, I've been unconscious for 3 days. You couldn't wait a week? Why wait? We both know this marriage was over years ago. You're 42, Ethan. You investigate insurance fraud for a living. You drive a Honda Civic. You shop at Target. She said the last word like it was a communicable disease. I need a man with ambition, with connections, with money. The door opened, and Tyler Grant walked in like he owned the place. Which, given that he was apparently marrying my wife tomorrow, maybe he thought he did. Tyler looked exactly like Central Casting's idea of a successful lawyer. Silver at the temples, $1,000 suit, smile that could sell ice to Eskimos or convince juries that guilty clients were just misunderstood. I knew Tyler. We had history. Ethan? Tyler's voice boomed with fake concern. How are you feeling, buddy? Vanessa told me about the accident. Terrible thing. Buddy, right. The last time I'd seen Tyler Grant, he was screaming at me across a conference table because my investigation had exposed his client's insurance fraud, cost him a 7-figure settlement, and nearly got him disbarred. Tyler, I said carefully. Small world. Oh, you two know each other? Vanessa looked between us, and for the first time since she'd walked in, she seemed uncertain. We've had some professional interactions, Tyler said smoothly. Nothing that should interfere with personal relationships, of course. Personal relationships. Like stealing another man's wife while he was in a coma. Actually, I said, reaching for the water cup on my bedside table, Tyler owes my firm quite a bit of money. Don't you, Tyler? From that fraudulent claim you tried to push through last year? The one where your client claimed his Porsche was stolen when it was really repossessed? Tyler's smile flickered like a fluorescent bulb about to die. That's all been settled. Has it? Because my records show you still owe us $230,000 in fees and damages, plus interest. Vanessa looked at Tyler with the kind of expression usually reserved for stepping in dog waste. You told me you were financially secure. I am, Tyler said quickly. This is just a minor accounting disagreement. Minor? I laughed, and it felt good. Really good. Tyler, you've been dodging our collection calls for 8 months. We were about to garnish your wages. The beautiful thing about being an insurance investigator is that you learn to read people. Right now, Tyler was reading like a man who'd just realized he'd bet the farm on a 3-legged horse. His face had gone pale under his expensive tan, and there was a thin sheen of sweat on his forehead despite the hospital air conditioning. Vanessa, he said, maybe we should discuss this privately. No, I said, sitting up fully now, adrenaline overriding the pain. Let's discuss it right here. Tell her about your law firm, Tyler. Tell her how you've been taking advances against future settlements to pay your gambling debts. Tell her about the 3 mortgages on your house. That's not, Tyler started. Tell her about the IRS lien. Vanessa took a step back from Tyler, like he'd suddenly sprouted tentacles. IRS lien? It's complicated, Tyler said. It's really not, I replied. You owe the government $400,000 in back taxes. They froze your assets last month. Didn't they, Tyler? The silence in the room was beautiful. Vanessa stared at Tyler like she was seeing him for the first time. Tyler stared at me like he was calculating how hard it would be to smother me with a pillow. I stared at both of them and felt something I hadn't experienced in years, pure, unadulterated joy. You're lying, Vanessa said, but her voice lacked conviction. Am I? Tyler, show her your bank statements. Show her the title to your house. Oh, wait, you can't? Because the bank has them. Tyler's jaw worked like he was chewing glass. You son of a witch. Now. I said, language. We're in a hospital. My phone rang. Perfect timing. The caller ID showed my lawyer's number. Excuse me, I said, answering the call. Robert, yes, I'm feeling much better, thank you. The inheritance paperwork? All signed and notarized? Yes, $329 million. Wire it to the primary account. I hung up and looked at Vanessa and Tyler, who were staring at me like I just announced I was the second coming of Christ. Inheritance? Vanessa's voice was barely a whisper. Oh, didn't I mention? Uncle Harold died last month. Left me everything. Funny thing about rich relatives, you never know they exist until they don't anymore. Tyler sat down heavily in the visitor's chair. 300 million? 29, I corrected. 329 million. Plus the real estate holdings in California, Nevada, and Colorado. And the investment portfolio. Robert estimates the total value at around 400 million once everything's liquidated. Vanessa's face went through several interesting color changes. Ethan, honey, don't. I held up a hand. Just don't. You made your choice, Vanessa. You chose Tyler here, with his mountain of debt and his failing law practice. You chose him over me because I wasn't ambitious enough, because I didn't have enough money, because I shopped at Target. I reached into the bedside drawer and pulled out the divorce papers she'd had served while I was unconscious. These are already signed, by the way. I had Robert look them over. Interesting reading. You're asking for half of everything, including the future earnings. Unfortunately for you, Uncle Harold's money isn't marital property. It's inheritance, received after you filed for divorce. That can't be legal, Tyler said. Oh, it's perfectly legal. I had 3 lawyers confirm it. Good lawyers. Not the kind who owe money to insurance companies and the IRS. Vanessa sank into the other chair like her strings had been cut. 400 million, give or take. The art collection alone is worth 30 million. Uncle Harold had excellent taste, unlike some people I know. The room fell silent except for the steady beep of my heart monitor and the distant sounds of hospital life in the corridor. I looked at my soon-to-be ex-wife and her broke boyfriend and felt something I hadn't felt in years. Complete and total satisfaction. So, I said finally, how's that wedding planning going? Pete's bar looked exactly like what it was. A dive that catered to cops, ex-cops, and people who wished they were tough enough to be cops. The neon Budweiser sign flickered intermittently, casting red shadows across the scarred wooden bar where Pete Kowalski was polishing glasses with a rag that had seen better decades. Let me get this straight, Pete said, not looking up from his glass. Your wife dumps you while you're in a coma, steals your money, and files for divorce so she can marry some broke lawyer. Then you inherit $400 million. 329 million, I corrected, taking a sip of the bourbon Pete had poured without being asked. 400 with the real estate and investments. And now she wants you back. She's been calling every hour since yesterday. Left 17 voicemails. Pete finally looked up, his weathered face creased in what might have been a smile. You gonna take her back? What do you think? I think you're gonna make her suffer first. Pete knew me well. We'd been partners for 3 years when I was still on the force, before I got tired of the politics and moved into insurance investigation. Pete had stayed until his 25 was up, then bought this bar with his pension money and settled in to listen to other people's problems while slowly drinking himself to death. She's planning something, I said. Vanessa doesn't give up that easy. Neither does Tyler. What kind of something? Before I could answer, the bar door opened and 3 people walked in like they owned the place. I recognized them immediately. Ruby Martinez, Chloe Patterson, and Marsha Williams. Vanessa's inner circle. The Mean Girls Club that had never graduated high school. Well, Ruby said, her voice dripping with fake sweetness. If it isn't the lucky lottery winner. Ruby was the kind of woman who spent more on her nails than most people spent on groceries. Botox had frozen her face in a permanent expression of mild surprise, and her lips looked like she'd been stung by a particularly vindictive bee. "Ladies," I said, not turning around on my bar stool, "slumming it today?" "We came to talk to you about Vanessa," Chloe said. She was the follower of the group, always agreeing with whatever Ruby said, always laughing at the wrong times. Her husband owned 3 car dealerships, which made her think she was royalty. "What about her?" "She's devastated," Marcia chimed in. Marcia was different from the other two. Where Ruby was mean and Chloe was weak, Marcia was calculating. She ran a successful public relations firm and had the kind of sharp intelligence that made her dangerous. "She made a mistake, Ethan. People make mistakes." "Some mistakes are bigger than others," I said. "She loves you," Ruby said. I laughed, and the sound echoed off the bar's low ceiling. "She loves my money." "There's a difference." "Don't be cynical," Chloe said. "Vanessa has been crying for days. She knows she screwed up." "Has she now?" I turned around to face them. "And what about Tyler? Is he crying too?" The 3 women exchanged glances. Ruby stepped forward like she was approaching a dangerous animal. "Tyler was a mistake," she said. "A rebound. Vanessa was hurt because you never showed her how much she meant to you. You never made her feel special. I worked 60 hours a week to pay for her lifestyle." "Money isn't everything," Marcia said. "Funny. Vanessa seemed to think it was when she left me for Tyler." Pete had stopped pretending to clean glasses and was now openly listening to the conversation. A couple of off-duty cops at the other end of the bar had also tuned in. Nothing like a good domestic drama to liven up a Tuesday afternoon. "Look," Ruby said, "we're not here to argue about the past. We're here because Vanessa wants to make things right. She wants to come home." "Home?" I stood up and all 3 women took a step back. I'm not a big man, 5'10", 170, soaking wet, but I'd learned over the years that sometimes presence matters more than size. "She cleaned out our joint accounts while I was unconscious. She filed for divorce papers while I was on life support. She was planning to marry another man. What part of that says home to you?" "She was confused," Chloe said weakly. "She was greedy," I corrected. "And now that she knows about the inheritance, suddenly she's not confused anymore." "That's not fair," Marcia said. "Fair?" I laughed again. "You want to talk about fair? Fair would have been her visiting me in the hospital. Fair would have been her waiting until I was conscious before filing divorce papers. Fair would have been her not stealing my money." "She didn't steal," Ruby started. "She withdrew $60,000 from our joint accounts without telling me. Money I earned, money I saved. She gave half of it to Tyler to pay his debts." That shut them up. I could see them processing this information, trying to figure out how to spin it. "She was trying to help someone she cared about," Marcia said finally. "With my money. It was joint money. That I earned, while she was getting her nails done and having lunch with you 3. Pete cleared his throat. "Ladies, you want to order something, or are you just here to maltreat my customer?" Ruby shot him a look that could have curdled milk. "We're having a private conversation." "In my bar," Pete said, "which makes it my business." I finished my bourbon and stood up. "Tell Vanessa I got her messages, all 17 of them, and tell her the answer is no." "No to what?" Chloe asked. "No to everything. No to reconciliation. No to marriage counseling. No to giving her another chance. No to pretending the last week didn't happen." "You're making a mistake," Marcia said. "Vanessa is a good woman. Good women don't abandon their husbands in hospitals." "She was scared," Ruby said. "Of what?" "Of losing you." I stared at her for a long moment. She already lost me. The moment she chose Tyler over me. The moment she decided I wasn't good enough. The moment she filed those divorce papers. I threw a 20 on the bar and headed for the door. The 3 women followed me. "Ethan, wait!" Chloe called. I turned around in the parking lot. "What?" "She wants to meet with you. Tomorrow night. Dinner at Chez Laurent." Chez Laurent, the most expensive restaurant in the city. The place where a single meal cost more than most people made in a week. Of course, that's where Vanessa wanted to meet. "Tell her I'm busy." "Doing what?" Ruby asked. I smiled, planning my future without her. I got in my Honda Civic, the car Vanessa had mocked, and drove away. In the rearview mirror, I could see the 3 women standing in the parking lot, probably planning their next move. Let them plan. I had some planning of my own to do. My phone rang as I pulled into traffic. Vanessa's number. I answered on the fourth ring. Hello, Vanessa. Ethan. Her voice was soft, vulnerable. The voice she used when she wanted something. We need to talk. No, we don't. Please, just give me 5 minutes. You had 5 years to talk to me. You chose not to. I made a mistake. You made a choice. Can't you forgive me? I pulled over and put the car in park. Forgive you for what exactly? For leaving me? For stealing my money? For filing for divorce while I was unconscious? For planning to marry Tyler? Which part should I forgive? All of it. I'm sorry, Ethan. I'm so sorry. Sorry you left, or sorry you found out about the inheritance after you left? Silence. That's what I thought, I said. The money doesn't matter to me. Really? Then you won't mind signing a post-nuptial agreement, giving up any claim to it. More silence. I thought so, I said, and hung up. My phone immediately rang again. I turned it off. Tomorrow, I decided I was going to start making some changes in my life, starting with the people in it. The law offices of Grant Stevens and Associates occupied the entire 15th floor of a glass tower in downtown LA. I'd been here before during depositions and settlement negotiations, but never as a creditor, never with this kind of leverage. The receptionist, a young woman with perfect teeth and practiced smile, looked up as I approached her desk. Mr. Cole, she said, consulting her computer screen, Mr. Grant is expecting you. Is he now? She led me down a hallway lined with law degrees, professional photos, and the kind of generic corporate art that cost a fortune and said nothing. Tyler's office was at the end of the hall, corner windows offering a view of the city that probably added $50,000 to his annual rent. Tyler stood up as I entered, extending his hand like we were old friends. Ethan, good to see you looking better. I didn't shake his hand. Instead, I sat down in one of the leather chairs facing his desk and pulled out a manila folder. Let's skip the pleasantries, Tyler. You know why I'm here. Tyler sat back down, his smile fading. If this is about the money, it's about the money. $230,000 plus 8 months of interest at 18% annually. That brings your total to $257,412. Ethan, be reasonable. I can pay you back over time. How much time? I was thinking 5 years, maybe 10. I opened the manila folder and pulled out a stack of papers. These are copies of the liens against your assets. Your house, your car, your boat, your law practice. The IRS has first claim, of course. Then there's the bank that holds your mortgages. Then there's the credit card companies. Tyler's face had gone pale. How did you? I'm an investigator, Tyler. It's what I do. According to these documents, your total debt is approximately $1.4 million. Your assets are worth maybe $800,000, assuming you could find buyers in this market. Those are private financial documents. Public records, actually. Amazing what you can find when you know where to look. I leaned forward. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to pay me the full amount you owe, plus interest within 30 days. Or I'm going to buy your debt from the other creditors and foreclose on everything you own. You can't do that. I can and I will. I've already made preliminary offers to 3 of your creditors. They're very interested in selling. Tyler stood up and walked to his window, staring out at the city below. This is about Vanessa, isn't it? This is about business. You owe me money. I want it back. I don't have it. Then get it. How? I stood up and walked to the door. That's your problem, not mine. 30 days, Tyler. After that, I own you. Wait. Tyler turned around. What if I could convince Vanessa to go back to you? And I stopped with my hand on the doorknob. Excuse me? She made a mistake. She knows that now. If I stepped aside, if I convinced her to reconcile with you, you'd do that? For $250,000? Yes. I turned around slowly. You'd sell out the woman you supposedly love for money? Tyler had the grace to look embarrassed. It's not like that. What's it like? It's practical. She belongs with you anyway. You can give her things I can't. Like what? Security, stability, a future, money. Yes, money. I walked back to his desk and sat down. Tell me about the accident, Tyler. What accident? My accident. The hit and run that put me in the hospital. Tyler's face went white. I don't know what you're talking about. Sure you do. Black SUV, tinted windows, ran me off the road on Mulholland Drive. Driver never stopped. Police never found the vehicle. That could have been anyone. Could have been, but it wasn't. Was it? Tyler sat down heavily. You're paranoid. Am I, or am I just good at connecting dots? I pulled out another paper from my folder. This is a rental agreement for a black Suburban, rented 3 days before my accident by T. Grant. That's you, isn't it, Tyler? Lots of people have those initials. Not with your driver's license number. The silence stretched between us like a taut wire. Tyler stared at the rental agreement like it was a snake. It wasn't supposed to happen like that, he said finally. How was it supposed to happen? Just a scare, make you back off the collection efforts. I never meant for you to get hurt. But I did get hurt. I know, I'm sorry. Are you? Because while I was unconscious, you were busy stealing my wife and my money. Vanessa came to me. I didn't pursue her. After you tried to eliminate me, I didn't try to eliminate you. You ran me off a mountain road, Tyler. What did you think would happen? Tyler put his head in his hands. It was supposed to be a fender bender, something minor. You never thought I'd survive. That's not true, isn't it? With me dead, Vanessa inherits everything, including the inheritance I hadn't told her about yet. She marries you, you pay off your debts with my money, and everyone lives happily ever after. You can't prove any of this, can't I? I pulled out my phone and showed him the screen. This conversation is being recorded, and before you ask, yes, it's legal in California as long as one party consents. That would be me. Tyler lunged for the phone, but I was faster. Years of investigating insurance fraud had taught me to expect desperate moves. Sit down, Tyler. He sat. Here's what's going to happen, I said. You're going to call Vanessa and tell her you're broke. Tell her you lied about your financial situation. Tell her you can't marry her because you have nothing to offer. She'll hate me. She already hates you. She just doesn't know it yet. What if I refuse? I smiled. Then I give this recording to the police. Attempted homicide is a serious charge in California. Even if they can't prove it in court, the investigation alone will destroy what's left of your career. Tyler stared at me for a long moment. Then he reached for his phone. Speaker, I said. He put the call on speaker and dialed Vanessa's number. Tyler? Vanessa's voice filled the office. Thank God, I've been trying to reach Ethan all morning. He won't return my calls. Vanessa, we need to talk. About what? About us. About the wedding. About everything. What do you mean? Tyler looked at me. I nodded. I lied to you, he said. About my financial situation. I'm broke, Vanessa. Worse than broke. I owe more money than I'll ever be able to pay back. Silence. Vanessa? How broke? Her voice was cold now. $1.4 million? Jesus Christ, Tyler. I wanted to tell you, but you thought you'd marry me and use my husband's money to pay your debts. Ex-husband. Not yet he isn't. The divorce isn't final for another 60 days. I raised an eyebrow. Interesting. Vanessa was already thinking about her options. I'm sorry, Tyler said. Sorry doesn't pay bills, Tyler. Sorry doesn't buy houses or cars or vacations. I thought you loved me. I thought you weren't a broke loser. The line went dead. Tyler stared at the phone like it had bitten him. Well, I said, that went about as well as expected. Tyler looked up at me with something that might have been hatred. You've destroyed everything. No, Tyler. You destroyed everything when you tried to eliminate me. I'm just cleaning up the mess. I stood up and headed for the door again. 30 days, I said without turning around. Find the money or lose everything. I walked out of his office, past the receptionist with the perfect teeth, and into the elevator. As the doors closed, I could hear Tyler shouting something, but I couldn't make out the words. It didn't matter. I had bigger plans for Tyler Grant and for my dear wife Vanessa. Chez Laurent looked exactly like what it was. A place where rich people went to eat tiny portions of expensive food while pretending to enjoy each other's company. Crystal chandeliers, white tablecloths, waiters who moved like dancers, and prices that would make a loan shark blush. I arrived 15 minutes early and chose a table near the window where I could watch the parking lot. Vanessa pulled up at exactly 8 o'clock in her white BMW, the one I'd made the payments on for 3 years. She handed the keys to the valet like she was bestowing a royal favor. She'd dressed for war. Black cocktail dress that probably cost more than most people's rent, diamonds at her throat and ears, hair and makeup perfect enough for a magazine cover. She looked stunning and she knew it. She also looked desperate, though she was trying hard to hide it. Ethan! She leaned down to kiss my cheek, and I caught a whiff of her perfume, Chanel No. 5, the same perfume I'd bought her for our first anniversary. Vanessa. I stood up and pulled out her chair. Old habits. She sat down and immediately signaled the waiter. Champagne, Dom Perignon. Just water for me, I told the waiter. Water? Vanessa looked at me like I'd ordered motor oil. We're celebrating. Are we? What are we celebrating? Our reconciliation? I wasn't aware we were reconciling. The waiter brought the champagne and water. Vanessa took a large sip of the Dom Perignon and fixed me with her most dazzling smile. I've been thinking, she said. Have you? About us, about our marriage, about the mistakes I made. Go on. I was scared, Ethan. When you had the accident, when you were in the hospital, I thought I was going to lose you. I panicked. So you filed for divorce. I wasn't thinking clearly. You were thinking clearly enough to clean out our bank accounts. Her smile faltered slightly. I was protecting our assets. By giving $30,000 to Tyler, he needed help. With my money. Our money. I leaned back in my chair. Tell me about Tyler, Vanessa. What about him? How long have you been sleeping with him? The question hit her like a slap. She actually recoiled. That's not... How long? She took another sip of champagne, buying time. It wasn't like that. What was it like? It was comfort after your accident. I needed someone to talk to. So you talked to him with your clothes off. Don't be crude. Don't be dishonest. How long, Vanessa? She stared into her champagne glass. 6 months. 6 months, I nodded. So this started long before my accident. Yes, while you were still sleeping in my bed. Still pretending to be my wife. I never stopped being your wife. You just stopped acting like it. The waiter appeared to take our order. Vanessa ordered the lobster. I ordered nothing. You're not eating? She asked after the waiter left. I'm not staying. What do you mean? I mean I'm leaving after we finish this conversation. But we're supposed to be working things out. No, Vanessa, you are supposed to be working things out. I'm supposed to be listening to your apology and then taking you back so you can get your hands on Uncle Harold's money. She had the grace to look embarrassed. It's not about the money, isn't it? When did you first contact me after the accident? I don't understand. Simple question. When did you first try to reach me after I was released from the hospital? She was quiet for a long moment. The day after you inherited the money. And not before. No. So for 4 days after I got out of the hospital, you didn't call, didn't text, didn't visit. But the day you found out about the inheritance, suddenly you couldn't reach me fast enough. I was confused. You were calculating. The waiter brought her lobster. She stared at it like she'd never seen food before. I love you, she said quietly. No, you don't. I do. I know I made mistakes, but I love you. You love the idea of $400 million. That's not true? I reached into my jacket and pulled out a legal document. This is a post-nuptial agreement. It states that in the event of divorce, you waive any claim to inheritance money received during our marriage. I'm not signing that. Then you don't love me. That's not fair. Fair, I laughed. You want to talk about fair? Fair would have been you visiting me in the hospital. Fair would have been you not sleeping with Tyler for 6 months. Fair would have been you not stealing my money. I didn't steal. $30,000, Vanessa. You gave Tyler $30,000 of my money without asking me. To help him. To help yourself. You were planning to marry him. His debts would have become your debts. She picked at her lobster without eating it. Tyler's out of the picture now. Is he? We broke up this morning. Before or after he told you he was broke? Her fork stopped halfway to her mouth. How did you? I was there, Vanessa. In his office. I heard the whole conversation. You were there? I was collecting on a debt. Tyler owes my firm $250,000. You planned this. I planned to get my money back. The rest was just a bonus. She put down her fork and reached across the table for my hand. I pulled it away. Ethan, please. We can work this out. We can go to counseling. We can start over. No, we can't. Why not? Because I don't trust you. Because I don't love you anymore. Because you showed me exactly who you are when you thought I had nothing to offer. People change. You're right. I changed. I realized I deserve better than a wife who abandons me when I need her most. I stood up and threw $200 on the table. That should cover the champagne and the lobster you're not eating. Where are you going? Home? To my house? The one you don't live in anymore? Ethan, wait. I turned back to her. The divorce papers are already signed, Vanessa. It's over. But the money will be mine, all mine, every penny. I walked out of the restaurant and into the parking lot. Behind me, I could hear Vanessa calling my name, but I didn't turn around. The valet brought my Honda Civic, and I tipped him $20. As I drove away, I could see Vanessa through the restaurant window, sitting alone at our table, staring at her untouched lobster. My phone rang as I pulled onto the freeway. Pete. How'd it go? He asked. About as well as expected. She tried to get you back. She tried. And I'm a free man in 57 days. What's the plan now? I smiled as I merged into traffic. Now we have some fun. What kind of fun? The expensive kind. I hung up and drove home to my empty house, where I had some planning to do. Tomorrow, I was going to start spending Uncle Harold's money, and I was going to make sure Vanessa and Tyler had front row seats to watch. The foreclosure notice on Tyler's law office was posted at exactly 9 a.m. on a Tuesday morning. I know because I was there to watch the sheriff's deputy tape it to the front door while Tyler stood in the lobby, staring through the glass like he couldn't believe what he was seeing. I'd bought his debt from 4 different creditors over the past 2 weeks. Cost me $800,000, but it was worth every penny to see the look on his face when he realized I now owned his house, his car, his boat, and his law practice. My phone buzzed with a text message. Vanessa, we need to talk. Emergency. I ignored it and walked into the building. The deputy was explaining to Tyler that he had 24 hours to vacate the premises. Ethan. Tyler saw me coming and his face went from pale to gray. You can't do this. Actually, I can. I own your debt now. All of it. This is about Vanessa. This is about attempted homicide. You rented a car and ran me off the road, Tyler. We both know it. The deputy looked between us with interest. Is there something I should know about? Private matter, I said. Mr. Grant and I have some business to conclude. The deputy shrugged and walked away. Tyler grabbed my arm. Please, I'll do anything. I'll disappear. I'll leave the state. Just don't destroy me. You destroyed yourself. I'm just collecting on the debt. What do you want? I want you to remember this moment every day for the rest of your life. I want you to remember that you tried to eliminate me, and instead of succeeding, you lost everything. I have nothing left. Good. I walked away, leaving Tyler standing in front of his former law office. My phone rang immediately. Ethan. Vanessa's voice was shrill with panic. What did you do to Tyler? I collected on a debt. You destroyed him. He destroyed himself. This is about revenge. This is about justice. Meet me at the house, our house. We need to talk. It's not our house anymore, Vanessa. It's my house, and you don't live there. I'm coming over. I won't be there. I hung up and drove to Pete's bar. It was barely noon, but I needed a drink and some friendly conversation. Pete was wiping down the bar when I walked in. You look like a man who just won the lottery. Close enough. I sat down at my usual stool. Bourbon. The good stuff. Tyler's finished? Completely. And Vanessa? Getting desperate. Pete poured the bourbon and slid it across the bar. What's next? Before I could answer, the door burst open and Vanessa stormed in, followed by Ruby, Chloe, and Marcia. All 4 women looked like they were ready for war. There you are, Vanessa said, marching up to the bar. We need to talk. No, we don't. Yes, we do. She turned to Pete. Give us some privacy. Pete looked at me. I shook my head. This is my bar, Pete said. You want privacy? Go somewhere else. Fine. Vanessa turned back to me. You've made your point, Ethan. You're angry. I understand that. But this has gone far enough. Has it? You destroyed Tyler. You humiliated him. You took everything he had. He tried to eliminate me. That's not... He rented a car and ran me off Mulholland Drive, Vanessa. While you were planning to marry him and spend my inheritance money. The 4 women exchanged glances. This was news to them. You can't prove that, Ruby said. Actually, I can. I pulled out my phone and played the recording of Tyler's confession. The bar fell silent, except for Tyler's voice admitting to the hit and run, explaining how he'd planned to scare me, how it had gone wrong. Oh my God, Chloe whispered. He tried to eliminate you, Marcia said. Vanessa was staring at the phone like it was a poisonous snake. I didn't know. Didn't you? You filed for divorce while I was unconscious. You cleaned out our accounts while I was on life support. You were planning to marry him 3 days after I nearly died. And you want me to believe you didn't know? I didn't. It doesn't matter. Even if you didn't know about the attempted homicide, you still abandoned me when I needed you most. You still chose money over love. You still proved that our marriage meant nothing to you. That's not true, isn't it? When did you first try to contact me after I got out of the hospital? Vanessa was quiet. Answer the question. After I found out about the inheritance. 4 days later. 4 days, Vanessa. I was home from the hospital for 4 days, and you didn't call once. But the minute you found out about Uncle Harold's money, suddenly you couldn't live without me. I made a mistake. You made a choice, and now you have to live with it. I finished my bourbon and stood up. The divorce is final in 3 weeks. Don't contact me again. Ethan, wait! But I was already walking toward the door. Behind me, I could hear Vanessa starting to cry, and her friends trying to comfort her. I didn't look back. Outside, I got in my Honda Civic and drove to the bank where Uncle Harold's money was waiting. It was time to start my new life. 3 weeks later, I was sitting in my lawyer's office when Robert handed me the final divorce decree. It's done, he said. You're officially a free man. And the inheritance? Completely protected. She has no claim to any of it. I looked at the papers that officially ended my marriage to Vanessa Cole. 5 years of my life reduced to legal documents and court stamps. Any regrets? Robert asked. I thought about it, about the woman I'd married, who'd seemed so different then, about the dreams we'd shared, the plans we'd made, about the moment in the hospital when I'd realized she was never coming to see me. No, I said finally, no regrets. My phone buzzed with a text message, unknown number. Congratulations on your divorce. You won. I hope you're happy. V. I deleted the message without responding. That afternoon, I drove to a Porsche dealership and bought a 911 Turbo, paid cash. The salesman nearly fainted when I handed him the check. As I drove my new car home, I passed Tyler's old house. There was a sold sign on the lawn and a moving truck in the driveway. A new family was moving in, probably unaware of the drama that had played out there just weeks before. I never saw Tyler again. I heard through Pete that he'd left Los Angeles, moved back east somewhere, started over with nothing. Good for him. Everyone deserves a second chance, even people who try to eliminate you. Vanessa was a different story. I saw her occasionally around town, usually at the expensive restaurants and shops where she used to spend my money. She'd lost weight, lost the glow that money and security had given her. Ruby, Chloe, and Marcia had moved on to other friends, other dramas. Rich women don't like to associate with failure. 6 months after the divorce was final, I was having dinner at a steakhouse downtown when I saw her. She was sitting alone at the bar, nursing a martini and staring at her phone. She looked older, tired, like someone who'd been carrying a heavy weight for too long. Our eyes met across the restaurant. For a moment, neither of us moved. Then, she raised her glass in a small salute, a gesture that might have been acknowledgement or apology or farewell. I nodded back, paid my check, and left. A year later, Pete told me she'd married a dentist from Pasadena. A nice guy, he said, but not rich. Not poor either, but definitely not $400 million rich. You think she's happy? Pete asked. I think she's surviving, I said. Sometimes that's enough. As for me, I bought a house in Malibu with a view of the ocean. I kept working as an insurance investigator because I liked the job, not because I needed the money. I dated occasionally, but never seriously. I wasn't ready to trust someone with my heart again, but I was happy. For the first time in years, I was genuinely, completely happy. And every morning when I woke up in my house overlooking the Pacific, I thought about Uncle Harold, a man I'd barely known who'd given me the greatest gift of all, the freedom to discover who I really was when I didn't have to pretend to be someone else. The inheritance had been about more than money. It had been about power, about choices, about the difference between being valued for who you are versus what you can provide. Vanessa had chosen money over love, security over loyalty, comfort over commitment. I had chosen justice over revenge, truth over deception, freedom over bitterness. In the end, we both got exactly what we deserved. And that, I realized, as I watched the sun rise over the ocean, was the most satisfying revenge of all.